Hey guys, what's going on? It's Matt Wenning at winningstrength.com. This is another edition of Winning Wednesday. When I was recommenting and or liking or following the social media platform on YouTube, Winning Strength, and I noticed that some people had posted about full body workouts versus split workouts and how we've seen a trend in this in the last, I don't know, say 10 or 12 years. Some of that's done to CrossFit. We see a lot of guys, even my friends like Joe DeFranco, Christian Tabitao, and some other guys have full body workouts. So I want to start the conversation before I get into my own personal thoughts on that issue with whatever you think or whatever you want to do and is getting you out of the house and getting you working out, I have no problems with. If you want to do full body workouts and you think that's the best way to go, have at it. But I would want to kind of talk to you a little bit about a couple of scenarios that I find interesting that I think that maybe full body workouts might have an issue with. The first of which being current research. So if we look at the current research, i.e. anything 2018 or newer, so in the last 6 or so years, we see studies done with doing either split style workouts like uppers and lowers or doing full body workouts, and the results come out almost the same. What I find interesting with those studies is they're either done on novice lifters, i.e. under 100 kilogram bench press, which we all know is not great. So they're novice or beginners, or two, untrained people. And they're finding that this information coming out is actually very similar no matter which way you go, which is telling me that they're seeing beginner gains regardless of the training modality. But with that being said, which one is better? And you see online all the time, a lot of these, especially like fitness influencers and fitness coaches talking about full body being so much better than splits. And I would disagree with that based on a couple of different types of information that I have accumulated over the last 25 years or 30 years of training at a very high level, in some cases, the highest level possible. The first thing that you find is that anybody that trains for performance-based training is not going to use a full body style workout, meaning if they're a powerlifter or a professional bodybuilder or anything where technique and skill is required to do the movements, I think that what you'll find is that you'll see a lot of guys split the exercises, and there's good reason for that. One, the energy. So if you're trying to put maximal or at least close to maximal energy into workouts and you're using a full body style system, the first couple of exercises are going to be the only ones that are going to have any quality. After that, the quality is going to diminish pretty regularly and pretty advanced, to the point that if you're trying to do compound movements on both the upper and the lower body in the same workout, one of them is going to be neglected as far as their energy consumption and their technical mastery. So that's one huge issue that I see with full body workouts. A lot of times, full body workouts don't include a lot of compound movements, which we all know are a huge component to getting better, especially after the novice gains are gone. The next thing that we have to look at is ligaments, tendons, and cartilage. So if we're doing full body workouts any more than say twice a week, i.e. 3, 4, or 5 times a week, we're doing the same amount or the same similar pressures on those areas, and they don't grow and they don't adapt to training nearly as fast. This is where the Soviets many years ago found out that the 72-hour rule was very important, and or how they broke down the workouts were very important in order to make sure that recovery was at the front of everything that needed to be done, because you can only do what you can recover from. And I find that if you're going to go balls to the walls more than 2 times a week with a full body workout, you're probably going to have an issue with recovery, especially if you're any good at any of those lifts, i.e. your bench press is over 275, 300. your squats over 400 or 500 pounds. Same thing with the deadlift. If you're looking at Olympic lifting, once your clean and jerks over, say 365, or your snatch is over, say 250, 275, you start having issues. You cannot do multitudes of those different movements in the same workout because technique degradation is going to be highly, present in those areas. So if technical mastery, which should be on everybody's radar, regardless of what your goal is, I find that full body workouts may not be very conducive for that. The next big thing that we looked at, and we still talked about a little bit, is ligaments and tendons. So we know that active tissue, i.e. muscle, responds to training much faster than ligaments and tendons. This is a huge rule to the 72-hour system that both I've used for 25 years. I know Louis Simmons used it for many, many years. And a lot of other greats have used it that we'll get into here in a second. But the point being is that you need to have those 72-hour breaks in between in order for the ligaments and tendons and cartilage to at least play somewhat of a catch-up game to the muscle tissue. Just a basic statement, nerves, bone, and muscle react to training in around 10 weeks, and ligaments, tendons, and cartilage usually take anywhere from 50 to 80 weeks. Now, this is just a broad statement, but it makes sense that if we have other tissues that take 5, 6, 8, possibly 10 times longer to recover than the passive tissue, why are we talking about muscles? You do hear about muscle pulls and muscle strains all the time, but I would say on an equal side, you see the same problem with ligaments, tendons, and cartilage. How many people do we know that's torn ACLs? How many people do we know that's messed up cartilage in their back, or the discs in their back, or ligaments in their back, or in their shoulder? You have your supra and infraspinatus and your rotator cuff. All of these areas are not going to find full body training at any type of an intensity very useful over a long period of time. Okay. So we have to look at that and make sure that we're thinking about that. Now, if we look at like professional lifters, okay, I'll give you an example. Tom Platz, right, had a 4-day split workout, and he would only do heavy squats twice a month because they were so taxing. So think about that for a second. If Tom Platz is doing splits training and learned this nearly 50 years ago, why are we having this discussion? I'm not sure. Dorian Yates is the same way. Super high intensity, only trained 4 days a week, considered by most to be the initial mass monster or one of the biggest guys in the world. If a pro bodybuilder is not training a full body workout, my question would be is if your aesthetics, if goal is what you want to look like, why wouldn't you listen to the top dudes instead of people that maybe look okay on the internet but have never really accomplished anything personally? I find that very interesting. Arnold is another great example of marginal drugs and great genetics. He would only train 4 days a week. And he would split his body parts up. So my point being is a lot of times success leaves clues. And what we find is that if the top lifters, both in powerlifting and in bodybuilding, are using split routines, why are we arguing about this at the novice and beginner and intermediate levels? I don't know. And I think a lot of it comes back down to media. Most people would agree, not all, but most people would agree that split training is probably a little smarter to do than full body, especially when you get super strong, or at least moderately strong. But I think the problem is that once you create, say, a factual way to do something, like a skeleton of how you do it, there's always 20 other people that are far beneath either your strength level, performance level, or longevity level that want to discredit that and utilize different methods just to be different. And I find that's a huge issue on the social media, especially for people that are beginners, because when they go and search for how they're going to train, it's confusing. If you don't have a large educational base on what top level dudes are doing and or how you should be doing them, it gets very confusing. I find probably the worst way to train someone would be to do a full body exercise right off the beginning and not really have any potentiation into compound movements. There's a reason that we do Wenning warm-ups, and we do them with nearly every population. It enhances technique. There's another reason. It enhances general physical preparedness, which is important for firefighters, general population, and lifters alike. The next thing it does is it attacks a rep range that's most commonly associated with ligament and tendon density. So that kind of tells you the reasoning behind the Wenning warm-up. Why do we only do one core lift? Because we only have so much time to train. And this comes back down to hormonal reasons. So if we know, we've done blood tests on many, many athletes, we know that after an hour that the hormonal shift starts to go from anabolic to catabolic, which gives us a window of understanding that training probably can't last more than about an hour. Now, some cases they'll go a little longer, and some cases they'll go a little shorter. But overall, if you look at a lot of the top lifters, especially raw lifters, bodybuilders, if they do anything more than an hour, it's usually split into 2 sessions. They don't train 2, 3, 4 hours a day. And I think that's a huge misconception that a lot of people either say to be kind of shock factor or whatever. But I've trained with a lot of the top dudes, and we were never in the gym more than an hour and 15 minutes. And if they had to do more than that in that day, they came back 4 to 6 hours later. So the point is that you have a time constraint. And if you're doing the compound movement with enough rest period in between each to focus on form and reduce injury, you're looking anywhere from 3 to 5 minutes in between each set, especially in your heavier sets. If we look at 5 to 7 sets, which is going to be for an advanced lifter, and I would say 8 to 10 sets for a novice lifter, because they usually need more chance to warm up, you're looking at like 35 minutes for a main movement, just one movement. So how does that fit in a total body workout? And the answer is it really doesn't. So my point is, guys, is that any way you want to train, and if you're a beginner and you think full body stuff is really working out well for you, stay on it. But eventually you're probably going to have to go into a split because of the quality of the exercise and the quality of the workout and the time constraints in which will happen with your hormonal system. So if you need any more help, please join Patreon for any questions, or get on Wenning Strength's YouTube channel and watch more videos and kind of get an idea of how we do things here, which I feel is the smartest way and the best way. But I am biased because it's my system and my understanding, but it's also been developed over 30-something years of training and being at a high level with no injuries, which for a lot of people that advocate full body workouts, a lot of them have had their injuries, and I know. So talk to you guys soon.